so much stuff is happening, you cannot just jump on everything. If your product is not well set up for it, you're going to build a solution that's not really helpful for anybody. It's not going to be successful. And if you're not going to be successful, why would you even invest time and resources in that?
Welcome to Spotlight On, a podcast about how companies are built, from the people doing the building, one messy, exhilarating decision at a time.
Welcome to a special edition of Spotlight On. I'm your host, Ben Fletcher, and I'm really excited to be here with CEO and founder of n8n, Jan Oberhauser. We're really excited, Jan, but maybe for those that don't know, tell us about what is n8n.
Sure. First, thanks for having me. And n8n is an AI-powered workflow automation platform. It really allows people to kind of connect everything with anything. It actually goes much further than that. It's like you can really build AI agents, you can build AI-powered applications, and it really allows people from developers to kind of geotechnical people to kind of do things that were only possible before for developers.
Today we're announcing that Accel is leading n8n's Series C, and we're really excited to be working together. You all are powering a lot of agents. You all are the brain behind orchestration for a lot of the AI workflows that are happening for creators, for developers within the enterprise. A lot is happening, and a lot of that is happening on n8n. But a lot of folks don't know about n8n. And this is the first time they're hearing about what you all are doing and becoming one of the gems and one of the leaders as an AI company. Maybe walk us back and start from the beginning around your remarkable story about how things got started at n8n.
I actually have probably a very uncommon background. I didn't study computer science. I actually studied audiovisual media, means I come more from the kind of movie side of things. I did effects for movies. Originally, I worked on the actual effects, and then kind of later on, I became a pipeline TD. But it was my job to kind of make the life of the artist more efficient and easier, which obviously involved a lot of automation. One thing I saw there is that those people, they're very smart, very well paid, and quite technical, but they were always reliant on me or other people like myself to actually do the things they wanted to be done. They could have had so much more impact if they would have been empowered, and they weren't. I think n8n is doing exactly that for organizations today.
The best founders and the best companies that we get to work with, they always start with a need. Like they see that or they wanted to use the tool, and that clearly happened with you and where you were at in your previous industries. So when you decided that you wanted to build this tool, did you leave your job? Did you go all in? Was it a gradual? How did you build this nights and weekends, get the community going to get things started?
Between having the idea and actually solving the real issue, actually multiple years went by. A company I was working for, it was called Digital Domain. They already had actually a solution there that kind of did something very similarly, but it was like XML based. Literally no non-technical person would have ever used it. Yeah. But it gave me the understanding that something is actually possible. Then actually years later, I then kind of worked on a different startup myself. And there I realized that even though I was obviously technical myself and I could program everything I needed, I realized that I actually spent probably 90% of my time re-implementing things that have been implemented before. Normally the most basic example is something like get a star on GitHub, send a message to Slack. Like each of those pieces have literally been implemented millions of times before by almost every developer out there. And this is never the most fun thing to actually do. And then at some point I was wondering, why do I spend most of my time on re-implementing things that have been done and they're not very joyful to do? Why don't I put the most of my time and resources in the kind of things that actually are special to my specific need? And that is when I thought about that there should be this kind of Lego kind of building block experience to kind of make sure I have these building blocks for the kind of reusable components. Again, get information from GitHub, get something from Slack, all the things that more or less most people need. And then allows me to kind of spend my time and resources on the things that are special for my need. 2018 is when I first again had the idea to actually implement it and solve it. And then between actually writing the first line of code and actually deploying n8n was another 1.5 years while working at another startup, working at a second startup to actually earn some money, but because I already had wife and one child back then, so I always had need some food and some shelter as well.
Of course.
And then after again roughly 1.5 years, in June 2019, the product felt finally ready, to kind of at least share with some people. And after I kind of did the soft launch, I saw the first people reaching out, they kind of really got some value out of it. They received some feedback. and then really did a proper launch in October, and then it really took off. Like people just loved the product. They saw even more value. They started to contribute to the product, to the documentation. They joined the community, and then really the growth started.
When you were building the platform early days, you've done a really good job of building a very technical platform for developers and also non-developers. But you've made sure that it's simple, but you can also get the most out of the platform. How do you kind of balance the two?
It's actually not easy. I think for me, the most important thing was always kind of building like a very flexible and powerful platform in the end. Because I think the problem with this kind of no-code, low-code tools was always that they seem amazing in the beginning. You get a lot of value out of them. But actually, when you want to bring it in production, like you're there to 80% and you just think, I need one or two more things, then you're suddenly stuck. And then you kind of bring in the time, all the time you saved, you pay back 5 times to actually get it to production use case. And that's what I think very often those kind of tools have a very bad reputation. And they wanted to avoid that. But obviously, like you cannot just avoid that problem. You have to give something there. And what we gave in the end is like what people talk about very often is like we have a steeper learning curve. It's like I think you can only make the product, like you can only go down to like a certain level, how simple you can make it. Because if you make it even simpler, again, you at some point you have to give something up for it, which is again flexibility and power. And again, it was always at the center of n8n, keeping flexibility and power. Sometimes people have in the beginning a slightly harder time, but once they kind of understand like how much value that they're generating, they actually get so much more value out of the product, and that's also why they stick around, because like it seems like the whole world is suddenly opening up for them. It's just like, I thought I could do X, and then I realized I could also do Y and Z, and there's so many other things. I cannot just use it privately, I can also use it at work, I can also use it there. I think that's really the amazing thing, and I think it worked out very well in the end.
You've done a really good job of striking the simplicity for folks that are starting out for the first time, but it's also resonated within enterprises, and enterprises are standardizing on the product. How did you do this early days to make sure that you had a vibrant community, the effusive love was there, and you struck that balance with the community?
Community was always very important for me. Like, I think if you really kind of want to achieve what we want to achieve, to really kind of become this default tool out there, you need more like an army of people that really kind of vouch for you, they kind of bring you out into the world and talk about you, and actually kind of bring the value that you're normally never able to kind of get as a small company at all. Means like that's why we focus very early on kind of building up this community out there. If you start an open source company, you cannot just say, hey, we want to have a great community, actually you have to invest in it as well. That's why from the very beginning, like I was there answering questions. Like I knew the product wasn't perfect, and you have to make up for it somehow. It means like if people run into this obvious issues in the beginning, like I have to be there and help them. And there's again, at some point you couldn't scale anymore, then you have to have other people that kind of do the same thing. And it's like, we were very good in just, if somebody had an issue, they came with the problem to us, and we answering within minutes. The amazing thing we also see now is like, now we don't have to do it by ourselves anymore because of this amazing community we built. Like they help each other, and that kind of makes the whole thing scalable again. And I think that is just like, that's the amazing thing about a community. Like, I think you start in the beginning, like, to give, like you give away this kind of product for free, you give away kind of the support for free, and at some point you get so much more back. And I think that's why it's so great to actually build a product that really has this amazing community behind it.
Over the last couple months, you all have seen explosive growth. So on the community side, now to over 600,000 developers that are on the platform and active, over 1 million instances that folks are running automations on, and that's grown over 10x this year. How do you now manage it at scale to make sure that the community continues to feel that personalized and that intimate nature that they continue to feel?
Yeah, it's definitely getting more and more challenging. One thing we definitely try again, kind of making sure we kind of use the community exactly for that. So like, for example, we built out programs to make sure the community actively helps each other out. So again, as you just pointed out, we have a lot of users out there, and we still have a rather small team. As of today, we are probably around 140 people, I think. Wow. And then obviously, if you have to service that amount of people, it simply doesn't work. You cannot do everything by yourself. So we built out a lot of programs for our community. Where, for example, we have navigators in our community that actually are there to help other community members. We have like a program where if you answer a question of another community member, where you get kind of points, and you have like a leaderboard, and that the top contributors that kind of help other people out get also prizes. And like this, we're kind of able to kind of still provide a good experience for the most users, and at the same time still scale. And the nice thing is, again, if you show people that you actually care about them and you actually want to empower them and you actually you really value how they're helping out other people, then it's really something those people also get value out of it, and it's kind of starts this kind of flywheel as well, where they kind of grow also not just a community, but also people that actually want to help you and want to make other people more successful.
Amazing. So you had a vibrant community, you had a workflow builder, you had all these integrations, and you had the foundation for building this platform to bring automations wherever folks were at, whether it was personal or whether they were hobbyist or also into enterprise. And then AI came along, and you famously said that it was either going to be the demise of the company or it was going to be an incredible opportunity. One, how did you stay on top of these trends to make sure you knew what was the most advanced models and what models needed to go into N8n? And then two, how did you make sure that you weren't left behind? A lot of founders can see these things, but it's hard to really go and catch that wave or be in front of it and then see that kind of growth that you all have had.
It's actually really a hard thing because there's obviously, especially with AI, there's a lot of stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that's also important to realize is very often you don't have to be the first one. Sometimes we can also be just seeing where the market is moving and then kind of react to that. In this case, we took a different approach. We really kind of tried to be the first one. We started pre-AI, and over 2 years ago, from 2.5 years ago, I would never have thought we would ever go in AI at all. But then if this kind of opportunity is presenting itself and you kind of just see what you already built and the thing that in AI is enabling, and you just realize at some point that this thing that fits perfectly together, then you really kind of have to really seize it and can make use of it. So much stuff is happening, you cannot just jump on everything. You really have to kind of a combination of what do you actually believe in, what's going to happen, and at the same time where you really think is where can our product provide the most value? Yeah. Because you can do everything, but at the same time, if your product is not well set up for it, you're going to build a solution that's not really helpful for anybody. It's not going to be successful. And if you're not going to be successful, why would you even invest time and resources in that? So it's better to kind of leave sometimes some things behind and not do them rather than trying to do everything and then doing a very bad job there. Doing a few things right versus doing everything kind of half-baked, I think is generally a good recipe.
Do you think it gives you all an advantage that you had the platform previously and you had built all these tools and then you integrated AI later? We have the conversation internally around are the, not legacy, but the incumbent providers, are they more well-positioned for AI or the AI native companies? Which are the ones that are more poised to take off and really run and become leaders in their space?
I'm quite happy that we started pre-AI because there's quite a few years already in the product. A lot of people, a lot of thinking, how do you build a UI, how do you provide the best experience, how can you onboard people, and all of that kind of knowledge is there already. AI was obviously a totally different beast, and we had to figure that out as well. But I think some things are always true, and I think this kind of knowledge, how do you build a great user experience, this kind of knowledge we already had, and we could bring it into this AI world as well. Things that you need for AI is for example, you need a lot of integration. You want to connect to other systems. All this stuff was already built out. So we had already kind of not just the advantage of figuring out the UX, we also had already a lot of stuff pre-built, which became quite helpful as well. So what I meant before is sometimes you just have to kind of take the opportunity when something fits perfectly, and there it felt like it did fit perfectly. A lot of AI companies, they focus solely on AI. They think that AI is a solution for literally everything. There has to be a human in the loop for certain decisions. For some parts, it definitely makes sense to still have code involved because AI is simply not necessary. It's much faster and cheaper to do it with code. And then if the AI piece as well is you want to have all three pieces working together. Again, the same described with the team before, that makes it stronger, that makes it better. It's not just one thing as a solution, combining multiple things that kind of work in tandem are normally, I think, the much better and stronger solution. That's why I think also our user base has probably a much easier time kind of getting actually production use cases live because we're not just relying 200% on AI, which is for some use cases not ready yet.
So Jan, early days, you talk about how AI was going to be the demise of the company or a huge opportunity. You had all the building blocks, you had the visual tool, you had the integrations, and then you saw that this wave of AI was coming. How did you all think about it? What were the things that you integrated? Were there things that you were nervous about when you wanted to bring AI into the product?
When it actually came up the first time, AI, I really, honestly was a bit scared because like what was really clear is like it's changing the whole game. It's like things I just months before I thought would be impossible, take a very long time, just suddenly became very easy. And then you obviously wonder, is like, what does it mean for your business? So you really have to kind of really take a step back and realize, okay, what makes us special? Like, where can we stand out and how do we fit into this kind of world? Some companies were doing amazingly and other ones obviously not that well anymore. And then I looked at companies that were doing amazingly, and especially also ones that kind of suddenly started to raise very high rounds. And then I tried to understand like what changed there. And like one company I saw was actually Pinecone. What Pinecone was before, they were like a vector database. And what they were after AI, they were the AI database. So it was very clear, it's like that they become part of the value chain. And again, if I wanted to make sure that n8n becomes like long-term sustainable and we can have a part in the future, and especially rather than just being around, actually being an important player, we had to make sure that we also become part of the value chain as well.
When you talk about this moment and how it was scary and there was a lot of things that you all wanted to do and seeing that things were changing, it's really hard to change where you're at. You have customers, you have revenue, you've built a lot of product. And I think there's a lot of founders that have done similar things. But what were some of the things, or how were you able to then take the company and reposition, put in the things that you needed to, the right tools, so that you were one of the most important building blocks for AI going forward?
We realized we have to move fast.
Yeah.
So like what we actually did is like, it probably was one of the interestingly most joyful times for quite a while again, because I literally could go back to full-time coding again for quite a few weeks. So it was like, in the end, it was myself and 1.5 other developers. We kind of really started on that project. Say, hey, like, we think that's super important, and we kind of put our resources behind that. And I think between the decision to actually build it and releasing it, I think probably 6 weeks went by.
Wow.
And then we released like the first version, which wasn't perfect at all. Yep. But I think very often like it doesn't have to be perfect. You can just have to kind of get something out there and then kind of build on top of that. And I think that was...
And the first version was workflow tool with an LLM that was embedded for doing different triggering or starting the workflows that you have.
In the end, like the first version, when it went further, it's like we already had, very early on, we had like an OpenAI node where you could kind of use the REST API, and I think that's what more or less most of our competition had as well. What we really did there is kind of allowed people to kind of build like proper agents within n8n. It's like you're not just calling in a REST API, like you have an agent, you kind of change all the prompts, you can add your different LLMs, you can have a vector store, you can have a memory, you can have multiple agents and then kind of connect it with all of the tools we already had out there as well. I think that is, again, what was very different back then. And on this is still a thing that most of them still weren't able to kind of integrate as well as we were able to.
Some of our best founders have kind of paused, seen the opportunity, and gone for it. I think about Alex Wang at Scale and what he did with positioning the company around reinforcement learning, around what you all have done around n8n and building nodes with OpenAI into your product. There's a lot of things that need to happen in order to get there. Are there challenges that are associated with that? Either positioning the company, transitioning where you're going, and just trade-offs that you all are making to really lean into where things are going in AI?
Actually, quite a few. Like first, every time you take a totally different direction, like I think first internally, people are wondering, it's like, what does it really mean?
Yeah.
Like some people were quite excited internally. Some people thought it was the totally wrong direction. And obviously you have to try to take them with you. And obviously very often, it takes some time till they realize the opportunity. At the same time, I think especially with AI, it feels like it's a very different rhythm. In the past, we could very easily plan out like 1, 2, 3 years where you want to go with the roadmap. That's not possible anymore because literally every week something else gets released. I think it's still important to have like some kind of roadmap where you want to go, but I think you have to be probably more willing to kind of change it.
Amazing, amazing. You all have done a great job of staying on top of everything that's going on within AI and making sure that n8n incorporates all the latest learnings. I know you and David, the VP of Product, sit down once a week and talk about everything that's going on in AI and what needs to be incorporated into the product. What are other things that you all do to stay on top of AI and everything that's changing?
There's so much like content out there these days. It's like you really have to kind of try to follow the right ones and getting the kind of right ideas out there. But in the end, it's really just, again, talking it through in the end. Very often it's like things everybody heard. We have a list of stuff we want to talk about, and then we just talk about the different topics. And then again, very often like we talk through some stuff, kind of get a rough understanding is how they could actually work, how they could fit into n8n, and then sometimes they go directly to the product, and sometimes we just pause them because we just realize, hey, that's, even though we realize it's important, it's not the most important thing right now. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of very often kind of marinate over time. It's like actually now this thing emerged, and it kind of can work on top of what you already created there.
You've always been extremely fair, very transparent with your employees. They love working at n8n. They feel they can go there, do their best work, and they can continue to be challenged. Have you seen things change pre-AI and now post-AI after things have exploded?
The biggest change we probably saw is like, we talked about before, like we have grown the user base 10x. Yeah. And like a company grew a little bit, probably 2x, a little bit more in the same amount of time. It's like definitely got very busy.
Yeah.
I think we always kind of were very proud that we kind of realize it's a marathon. It's not just a sprint. I think that's why we try to kind of find a quite good work-life balance. I think right now it's definitely, especially in some departments, not the case anymore right now. That's why we're hiring very fast and also try to even automate more and use more AI, just to kind of get it to kind of this place where we think it's actually best for the people at n8n and in the long term. For example, we also internally kind of set a goal to kind of become the first €1 billion ARR company with less than 500 employees. We want to be a big company in impact with quite few employees. I think that is kind of where we kind of do a lot of thinking right now, like how can we kind of build this kind of organizations? Like where do we add headcount? Where don't you add headcount? Like how does it work for departments like engineering and like sales? Like how do you build this kind of organizations? This organization, I think, especially also important because we are an AI automation company, and it's important that we figure that out because that's what we are selling to our customers. We kind of have to kind of be the example, and only like this we can actually help our user base to do the same thing. I think that is definitely something that's changing. We just say we cannot operate the same way anymore like you did pre-AI because the world literally changed. So you have to find ways to kind of really incorporate in the right way. And again, I think that's probably one of the biggest changes right now.
Tactically, how do you all do that internally? Because a lot of people talk about it and say they want to be able to be efficient as possible with AI. They're not going to hire new employees until their team has become AI native or fluent in the things that they do internally. You all are absolutely, practicing what you preach and doing that with n8n, with everything that you all want to automate. But what are some of the things that you look for when you hire? What are the things that you all do within your teams to make sure that you make that those things are happening internally?
Honestly, I always, like with everything, I think we could still improve a lot. I think it's just something you always have to be aware of. It's like you could always do more. And we definitely try. And one thing that's always very important for me, and I think the rest of the organization, what you also pointed out before, is like our employees are generally, like they're very happy. I think we have an employee NPS score of 95 to 100, depending on the half year when you do it. I think that's obviously something you want to keep. Like people are very happy and they really enjoy the culture we have built. I think that's actually one of the most important things, again, to actually make sure we hire the right people, married with making sure that the people we hire actually love what they're doing. Because one thing we definitely want to avoid is kind of burnout. And when do you burn out? Is if you have a lot of work that you actually don't enjoy. If everybody in an organization is actually having fun when they actually do work, like people, again, they love what they're doing, they provide so much more value, they get a lot of fulfillment out of it, and everybody is winning. I think that's generally what we are always looking for. At least I, like internal and external, is kind of creating this kind of win-win situations, because then like everybody is winning. It's like that's how it's growing. It's also again with the community. Again, we're giving something, they are winning, we give something back, we're winning as well. It's like, I think that's probably part of the success we had internally and externally.
Amazing. When you all hire, what are some of the things that are really important that you look for? Because finding that type of personality and folks that can do their best work, but are enjoyable, they're loving it, they're happy, they're having a great time. What are the things you look for in the interview process to find those folks?
One thing we don't have it set as a value, but people really value a lot, is that people are humble. Mm-hmm. Like I think that is just makes such a big difference. If you have people that are really, really amazing in what they're doing, but they don't brag about it. It's like Like that's just how they are. And they're always there to help others. Like no matter how busy people are, they're to help. They always find time for others as well. And also people just care. I think that's like actually one of the first employees I had to let go at n8n was not because of the performance. Like he was doing a good job, but everybody at n8n cared very deeply about what we were doing, and he didn't have the same excitement. I think that made a difference in the end. Like if not everybody's excited about what they're doing, then they're not the right people. And I think especially it's getting a little bit harder these days. Like in the past, people joined and actually had to give something up. Like they actually got a lower salary in the end, and when they have working for one of big companies, or like went to an organization where there was more risk. Now we suddenly become this organization where people really want to work for, and I don't want to have people that kind of start because they think they're going to become a millionaire because of the shares they're getting. I want to have people that actually work there for the right reasons because they're excited about what we're doing. I think that makes a big difference, and that's what we're looking for.
When you're trailblazing and creating the leader in a new company and not, being humble, which you are to the core, how do you balance that with now being one of the most interesting AI companies out there, probably one of the best businesses out there in terms of gross margin and retention for what you all provide for enterprises and what you can do with AI? It's pretty incredible, but balancing that with the humility and not wanting to share that and with what you all have in your core, how do you balance the two to make sure that you do the best for n8n?
Yes, actually, I think that's probably something I'm struggling with myself. I think that's probably a problem as a European. It's like, we don't brag, and so I think it brought some problems as well. Like we definitely had a long time a visibility issue, especially in the US, where people, like even though we had quite some scale already, people didn't know about us. Yeah. And we definitely have to kind of, rebalance that a little bit and probably talk more about the things that are going very well and be more outspoken. It's changing and people just see how much value we're providing. I think maybe we're not very American and that outspoken, but in the end, like most of us are still European, and we're also getting more Americans in as well. Like we're opening our New York office. We just opened it very recently and want to expand much more there. So maybe you're getting some more of that DNA into the company as well.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I've always said it starts with coming from product. And you all now have this incredible product, an incredible community, an incredible business. And so it can come natural to you, but it's also very authentic, which is really nice to hear, is that you have a great business, you all are enabling a lot of amazing use cases, and now you all are at the forefront of what's happening AI. And so it's awesome to see. Maybe the last thing is maybe we just talk about what's the future for n8n. You're raising this large round. You've more than 10x'd on the revenue side and on the company side. You talk about you want to connect anything to everything. You want to hit $1 billion of revenue with less than 500 people. What are the next steps? What are the things from product? What's the vision? Where do you all want to go next?
I think it's probably also very closely linked to AI. I think AI is still in this phase where people kind of create amazing MVPs, but not everybody gets real business value out of it. Mm-hmm. We definitely, like again, because of our combination of like human code and AI, I think our user base is a little bit ahead there to other AI products. But really making sure like that the product allows our user base to kind of move into this kind of production stage where they really kind of automate and kind of use AI in business critical use cases. That becomes much more important. So again, right now it's just about building. We really want to move in the direction about testing, monitoring, and like part of this obviously evaluation as well. I think that is really like at the core of it, because what it's really about is kind of providing real value for the users. Mm-hmm. I think that is what AI is always promising, but it's not gets delivered that much. And I think we really want to kind of really help that make sure that real value is actually created. We really want to empower more and more people to kind of use AI to the fullest. And we think n8n is really set up very well for that. Like what we really want to become is what was Accel 15 years ago for spreadsheets, is n8n should become the same for AI. So really empowering everybody to kind of use AI to the fullest and get real value out of it. It's like people should build their agents for private use cases in SMBs, in the largest enterprises, up to kind of government organizations, and empowering everybody to kind of get real value for the business critical use cases through n8n and through AI.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for joining us. Sure. It was an amazing conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you.